What do you want to know? I like Old Kent Road, yeah? I grew up in here, you know what I'm saying? Like, here all, but the cultures, African, Somalis, Afghanis, Albanese, all different cultures.
Through the heart of the London borough of Southwark runs the Old Kent Road. Familiar to almost everyone in England, it remains one of the oldest and most intriguing of all London roads. We don't really know how ancient it is. The road is actually said to predate humans and may have been an animal track that was later paved by the Romans. Following the course of the old Watling Street, which extended from Dover to Canterbury, it was a road followed by nearly all travellers from the days of the Romans, the days of pilgrimages and crusades. Later, it was known as Kent Street, or sometimes King Street, as royal processions passed along it to enter London by Old London Bridge and to the formation of railways. A walk along the Old Kent Road today, starting from the Bricklayers Arms roundabout and ending in New Cross, speaks of immense diversity of colour, scale, tone and history. At the present day, if you pause to look around, you will see a conglomeration of architecture, tall new builds, a few surviving 19th century houses, now for the most part demolished, relics of failed residential developments, small shops, cafes, a myriad of religious institutions, and various other properties due for redevelopment. Noise and traffic jams. A rich street life, particularly in the northern stretch of the road, comprised of Algerians, Nigerians, Ethiopians, Romanians, Colombians, Christians and Muslims, students and artists, merchants, drunks, Millwall fans, homeless people, screeching foxes, bright parakeets, thieving squirrels, and well-groomed cats. A palimpsest full of oddities and beautiful landmarks.
This mural depicts the history of the Old Kent Road. It was made in 1965 by Polish artist Adam Kozowski. It tells the story of the epic journeys taken in the road since Roman times, when the road was known as Watling Street, up until the near present. Here is Jack Cade, who in 1450 led a revolt against the government of King Henry VI of England. The revolt stemmed from local grievances regarding the corruption, maladministration, and abuse of power of the king's closest advisors and local officials. Although the uprising was suppressed, it ultimately contributed to the breakdown of royal authority that led to the Wars of the Roses between the houses of York and Lancaster. Of course, the face of the road has changed so often and so dramatically that if we were to include a complete record of the road's history, it'd probably take the length of it. The Bricklayers Arms roundabout took its name from the railway goods depot that drove the development of local industry from the 1850s onwards, granting this part of Southwark with industrial vitality and importance. Originally built in 1844 as the London terminus of the South Eastern Railway, it once welcomed distinguished visitors like Princess Alexandra of Denmark, who arrived here in 1863 as the bride of the Prince of Wales. A century and many decades later, someone told me of legendary rave parties taking place in the freight depot, where city bikes were stored, allegedly, before being shut down by police. At the Bricklayers Arms junction connecting Tower Bridge Road, Old Kent Road, New Kent Road and Great Dover Street lies the flyover. Built to help ease traffic, it can be used one way from the New Kent Road eastbound traffic to the Old Kent Road. The bus 53, one of London's longest and oldest bus routes, has been ascending and descending it ever since the flyover was built in 1967. Here it is in 1981. Until 1761, much of the road had a largely rural feel to it. The New Kent Road was built over fields in order to provide a shortcut for some Walworth monks who were tired of having to go up into the borough before setting off on the journey to Canterbury. Rock's map of 1761 shows the old and New Kent roads with only a few houses, mostly inns, largely surrounded by fields. It was here where the flyover stands today that Elizabeth Siddal also lived in the 1800s. Famously known for featuring in John Everett Millais' painting Ophelia, the red-hair muse floating amongst the reeds in her violet-purple dress, was also a poet and artist in her own right, and a pivotal figure of the pre-Raphaelite movement. The ghost of a bride amongst the ravers, a 19th century pre-Raphaelite supermodel, endless stream of traffic thereon, a ripple of energy.
English community people, they are very high dense in this area. They used to have nightclubs, pool clubs.
The Old Kent Road used to be the heartland of a white working class population. Given its industrial status as a route into town from the coast, it's no wonder there were so many places to drink. It was really these pubs that gave Old Kent Road its reputation at the time. In the 1990s, Old Kent Road resembled what would have been London's nearest approximation to the American Strip. But even a stretch back to the mid-1800s reveals it as a cluster of a myriad public houses. On a cold January day, I visited some of what's remaining and what had been.
Long before this Domino's branch on the northern stretch of the road, there used to be a pub on this site called The World Turned Upside Down. It is roughly dated to have stood here since 1820. There are many stories about the origins of its name. Up until about 1840, its signboard depicted a man walking the South Pole upside down. But the name may also signal the same titled ballad from 1646. However, old regulars maintained that the name was derived from the mirrors on the ceiling inside the pub, which gave people the impression of being upside down. From the 1960s onwards, the sign's subject matter changed to a footballer using a human head as a ball. The old signboard is now long gone, but the pub, rebuilt, closed and reopened with a new facade, has lived a rich life. Once it was a music venue where Long John Baldry gave his first performance in 1958. It eventually closed in 2009. By 2012, the ground floor was converted to retail and the building was extended upwards as a block of flats. Its past deeply buried in the particles of the building and in the depths of the internet. Thomas à Becket was another iconic pub located at the corner of Old Kent Road and Albany Road. As it stands today, the building dates back to 1898, but conceals a much longer heritage. Located on the site of an ancient watering hole, which Chaucer mentions in the prologue of his Canterbury Tales, it commemorates the spot where the pilgrims first halted on their way from London to Canterbury. Later, it was where Henry Cooper boxed and where David Bowie rehearsed with the prototype Spiders from Mars in the 1970s, and where generations of Londoners drank. Now, it's a Vietnamese restaurant, one of many on the road, called Viet Quan. The Thomas à Becket sign, a reproduction of a stained glass window from Canterbury Cathedral, remains above the doors. The Kentish drovers opened in 1840 and took its name from the drovers who took the cattle from farms many miles away, in this case from Kent, to the cattle markets in London. As they neared London, the drovers would rest the livestock and let them graze for several days, sometimes weeks, in order to fatten them up after a long, slow journey, when most of the animals would have lost considerable weight and therefore lost some of their market value. At a short distance from the pub is a side street known as Drovers' Place, which originally as fields had been hired out to passing drovers to allow their animals to graze. Looking up at the exterior facade, you can see the remnants of a rare tiled mural depicting herdsmen droving their cattle to market. Today, it's a Vietnamese restaurant called New Saigon, where you can eat and sing karaoke at the same time. Public houses on Old Kent Road have been closing since the 1980s.
At one point, there used to be 39 pubs on the street, and people would begin their pub crawl from the northern stretch of the road down to the edge of New Cross, often engaging in brawls and drinking until the early hours of the morning. The Frog in Nightgown, the Green Man, the Black Bull, the Brighton, the King's Arms, the Magnet, the Swan, the Brunswick Tavern, the Prince Consort, the Thomas a Becket, the Lord Nelson, the Oxford Arms, the Lord Wellington, the Alexandra, the Bridge House, the Britannia, the Shard Arms, the Kentish Drovers, the Suffolk Arms, the Windsor, the City Arms, the Bricklayers' Arms, the Horseshoe, the World Turned Upside Down, the Gin Palace, the Dun Cow, the Duke of Kent, Liddell's Brewery, the New Halfway Inn, the William IV, the Horse and Groom, the Half Moon, the Manor House Tap, the Turk's Head, the Elephant and Castle, the Rising Sun, the Canterbury Arms. Out of all these, only 3 remain in trading as public houses: the Lord Nelson, the Windsor, and the Five Doors.
In the 1980s and 90s, Southwark Borough Council did not consider Old Kent Road to fit the characteristics of an urban town centre, and consequently large retail parks, more in character with out-of-town schemes, were developed over earlier properties. By the end of the 20th century, the Old Kent Road was known as a transient place, a place in between places, generally thought of not as a destination, but a place you had to drive through in order to reach your desired destination. Its once high esteemed position as an ancient major thoroughfare carrying vital labour and materials, ultimately sowing the seeds of what then became the major city of London, was reduced in the collective imagination to the status of a hinterland. We find ourselves in the Cantium Retail Park's big parking lot surrounding B&Q, Halfords and Pets at Home, one of the major retail parks of the road. In 2015, Boris Johnson, Mayor of London at the time, declared Old Kent Road as an opportunity area in his revision of the London Plan, emphasising a residential-led redevelopment and a reduction in industrial activity along Old Kent Road. In 2016, there was a big police and Southwark Council clear-out of migrants camping in this car park. Rough sleepers and untaxed vehicles were moved away by police after complaints of antisocial behaviour. Many of these retail parks will be cleared out entirely to make way for a new scheme of mixed residential, retail and business space, as stated in the Old Kent Road Area Action Plan. Many questions have been left unanswered about whom this regeneration will benefit, house and employ. Developers have so far relied on providing affordable housing, which is not so affordable for most, with no guarantee of social rented housing or family housing within that, a radical departure from Southwark's affordable housing requirements. On the other hand, the industrial veins of the road that have built and maintained the City of London are further pushed out, leaving many such businesses under threat, ultimately changing the face of the road into one more in character with a major central London destination. The industries based along Old Kent Road have provided the City of London with a quick turnaround of materials and services, so the effect of pushing industry further outside London remains unclear and unaddressed in the Area Action Plan. Such schemes have so far generally excluded broader sections of the community, and though they're bringing in new people and new money, there's a quick turnover followed by a sharp rise in prices that rearrange both the urban and social fabric of the road.
You disrespect the planet, you disrespect yourself, you don't love yourself.
Trees a good sign, but you don't see them that much because it wasn't planned.
Where this young white beam tree lies here today, there used to be a mature tree about 3 years ago. We cut it down in 2019 and planted a new one in the winter of 2020. This young tree is only 2 years old. It will take 30 to 40 years for it to reach full height. Only infrequently are there trees in the streets. When there are, they have railings around them. But not this one. This is a fig tree that was planted here and looked after by someone about 2 years ago. Fig trees happen to be my favorite, so I feel quite close to this little one who has grown against so many odds on this busy part of the Old Kent Road. This is what it looked like in September of 2021 and will look like every summer it comes in bloom.
The summer, most of the time, I remember summer. It's really nice.
You have to think clearly. So sometimes if I don't know how to do it, I go to the park, sit down there and think. It's very clear, very big. You can be by yourself in the middle of a lot of people. You can think clearly, very clean. I really like the park. The park is very, very good. The park is very nice.
Burgess Park is Southwark's largest park. Built between the 1950s and 1980s, it was named after Labour councillor Jessie Burgess, Camberwell's first woman mayor, in 1973. An unusual method was used in the development of this park. The area was once home to factories, densely populated streets, and the Surrey Canal before it was badly bombed during World War II. Inspired by the Abercrombie plan and fueled by post-war optimism, vacant tracts of the city were rebuilt and redesigned on a scale not seen since the Great Fire of London. The park was set up after hundreds of dwellings, factories and churches were demolished, 30 streets were covered over, the Grand Surrey Canal was filled in, and bomb-damaged areas were incorporated and grassed over. You can still see the old lime kiln from 1816 in the heart of the park, a reminder of the area's industrial past.
We are separate. Where I'm interested in my group, the Spanish interested in their group, so we don't have a voice to make any change to the area. The older community who was here, the English community, when they are here, they have a voice. Christmas time, you see the light, and the street is clean, nothing happened on the street. They have a voice to go to the council. They are as a team. But we concentrate in our own thing only. We didn't concentrate as community, as a business group. We didn't see it that way. They don't see us as business. They don't see us, we support ourselves. And then at the same time, even if it is a little, we give back to the community a service. They don't see us as part of a Londoner because, as I said, we don't have any voice. We moved from 6,000, we are paying now 17,000 for this shop per year. We don't have any voice.
Basically, they're trying to take us from our area, to be honest with you. They're saying they're going to build the new buildings here as well and stuff, you know what I mean? If you go a bit further, Elephant Castle is all brand new buildings. That's all being changed, isn't it? I've got a lot of family members and friends that moved out of London, and that's very sad, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If you go further to KFC area, it used to be garage, workshops, and then this kind of big things. It is not shops like us. But now getting a property in that area is very expensive. People, they know in advance what will happen. So big people who have decent money, they want to invest in that area, keep the place. And then there will be also tube station. All these things change the value of the area in that area. so it will be expensive. But the area is very nice. They have life 24/7. If you come anytime, there is some movement in the street. You might get tea or coffee, no beer, but there is always active, and then people consider they feel you belong in this area. When you come in this area, people they feel they belong. You have that kind of relation with the community.
This is the first iteration of a project about a road whose history is constantly being rewritten. I documented it between 2020 and 2022, starting with no specific project in mind, but with an urge to visually articulate some of its history, my memory of it, its conflicts, stories, and landscape. Old Kent Road is and has always been on the precipice of profound change. I wanted to document the road, grazing the surface of its ancient and industrial past, to feel its presence in the present, before it is put through the hypergentrification machine. Central to the development plans for this area is transport infrastructure, with the extension of the Bakerloo line. The City of London first plunges its tentacles outwards to then secure its grip with the rise of luxury towers, climbing up to 40 stories high above us. Capitalism's uninhibited domination grows outwards and upwards, its suction cups yearning for the next piece of land to usher in development and new money. This is an economy that speculates on land, while in constant need of more land to sustain itself. Replacing the old with the new, bringing in new people and new money changes the urban and social fabric of a place. I'm not sure what the future holds for Old Kent Road and the people, trees and ghosts that traverse it, but it's not hard to imagine it swallowed and regurgitated in the same way other deindustrialised parts of London have, from Stratford to Elephant and Castle. Developers' towers will soon rise, and their image of new capital will cast a shadow over the spirit that makes the road what it is today. I wanted to capture and attune to the spirit, its essence, to decipher the undecipherable in video and flimsy words. In my documentation of the road, I guess I ended up rewriting my memory of it. To document it then is not only to remember, but to rewrite it. Against prescribed ways of remembering, I want to have this record of the road, an image of London on the cusp of enormous change.